Let's please stay. We'll have the we'll call to order, and we'll have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. So if everybody will please stand for a moment of silence and then our pledge. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we'll do the roll call, determine we have a quorum. So Madam Clerk, if you would.
Yes. Chair Keller,
Here.
Vice Chair Williams is absent excused. Member Bernstein,
Here.
Member Millen,
Here.
Member Wunderlich.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, all right. Consent agenda, we have the minutes for the planning and zoning for the November 13th meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda from November 13th.
And can I get a second?
I second the motion.
All right, motion was made by Member Mellon and seconded by Member Bernstein. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, carried. All right, we do not have any old business, so let's start with our new business. And the first thing up on the agenda tonight is the Arden Park North Phase 4. This is a public hearing, and we'll turn it over to City Planner Rummer.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I noticed that the applicant for the first item's not here yet, so we can maybe move on to the second item first.
All right, we can do that. All right, so we will hold off on that. And let's go to the second item of the evening, and that's the 3872 Old Winter Garden annexation, small-scale comprehensive plan, and a rezoning. Again, this will be a public hearing, and City Planner Rummer, we'll turn it over to you again.
Okay, thank you. For the record, my name's Mike Rimmer, I'm the city planner. And the item before you, as you said, is it's a property located on the south side of Old Winter Garden Road, east of Hempel. It's next to a new 7-Eleven gas station built in the county. It's south of the properties that are owned by Orlando Health Central, Orlando Health. And as I said, the property is located along Old Winter Garden Road. This line you see back here, you'll see later on, is a paper right-of-way. It's not developed at this time. My newest aerial does not show the 7-Eleven, but I have a property appraiser's website up with a road view that'll show it. But there's a 7-Eleven here. This property is undeveloped, as you can see. It's a little over 1 acre, 1.25 acres in size. The property currently has a low-density residential land use, future land use designation in Orange County. As part of our joint planning area agreement, it's a low-density residential is what's showed us on the joint planning area map as well. A little before the 7-Eleven was built, the county amended the future land use on, I believe they amended this portion, turned it commercial back in after 2006. So the zoning is, it's Orange County, A1 agricultural zoning. There is, the property is not within the city of Ocoee's utility service boundary. With regards to annexation, it is eligible for annexation under voluntary annexation. We have a application from an applicant with authorization from the property owner. It is adjacent to the property in the city of Ocoee on the north side. The road does not create a barrier, therefore it's eligible for annexation. As I was saying before, it's not within the city's utility service boundary. That line runs right on the north side of Old Winter Garden Road. So it'll be serviced by Orange County Utilities. There is a city, Orange County water line running in front of the property. Sewer is to the east a good distance, and the engineer can discuss that connection. So the proposal is to annex the property into the city limits of Ocoee, then provide a small-scale comprehensive plan land use amendment. That comp plan amendment is to change the joint planning area and the future land use designation from low-density residential to professional office. It'd be the purple, as you see up here. It would not be to a commercial land use. And under the professional office, you can only have offices. So once the land use changes, that's the only viable zoning would be office or a PUD to incorporate office. We're talking about a PUD. So we have annexation, we have a comp plan amendment, small scale amendment, and then we have an associated rezoning to plan unit development, PUD, with a specific land use plan that we assign it with the PUD zoning.
Okay.
The proposal is to build a medical office building, about 33,200 square feet. What you're not seeing is, you can see in your packet, it's a little bit brighter, it's not showing up on the TVs as well. There's the footprint of the 7-Eleven on the west side. Old Winter Garden Road is on the north side. The proposal is to have this medical office building, and this is, as you can see, the building is situated to be up on the front of Old Winter Garden Road. This area is not within any of our overlay areas like we have within our community redevelopment area on 429 that requires that type of development. This is a proposal from the applicant, and for some reasons you'll see. Medical office, it does have parking underneath and associated parking in the rear and on the side, access point via Old Winter Garden Road. This line you see here is that paper right-of-way that I showed you back on these earlier maps. That's not constructed. The applicant, upon annexation, would have to petition Orange County to vacate this portion of right-of-way. The right-of-way is adjacent to property in the county on the east and south side. This paper right-of-ways do not necessarily transfer under a annexation when you have 50% of the road. And as you can see from this land use plan, the ability to have this land is integral to the site. The site will propose stormwater retention underneath the parking. So the land use plan will, as a PUD, its zoning criteria will be the plan you see and the setbacks and standards for the building and the uses. If the developer is able to eke out more building space, he's limited per the PUD to the 33,200. He would have to amend. If the stormwater retention does not work underneath the parking and he has to build a standalone pond and lose parking and square footage, he would not have to amend his plan necessarily to make the building smaller. But if he's going to change the location of the building or change access points, then that would require the plan to come back through. As part of this area that is the paper right-of-way, we said let's add a cross-access that's not there today. The 7-Eleven has not vacated the portion of the right-of-way out behind their property. Don't know what their plans are. It may come about, the county may require all the right-of-way to be vacated when they go through their process. I don't know. So we've just provided the ability to have future cross-access if it's ever able to be secured. So the utilities will be via an 8-inch water line in Orange County along the front, and then they have to run, I don't know if there's a good sewer down the road and connect at a point down over here. The engineer will describe more of that, but that's under Orange County's utilities. The retention would be under the building. So there's some diagrams here that are attached that are not showing up well. They might show up better in the engineer's presentation. And I do have a full-size plan that people can look at. The applicant, and I'll let him describe what these pages are showing, tried to show the building, the proposed building in relation to the site, looking at the distance to the single-family homes in Orange County to the rear and from all sides. I can just show you real quick. I think this will be able to show the 7-Eleven better. So in discussing the project with the applicant, looking at the building being up to the road, we were looking at different views on the 7-Eleven that was constructed and trying to ascertain, having the building set up so far, how it would interact with the building, block the building. As you can see, there is a divided median in order to, when you're westbound on Old Winter Garden Road, if you wanted to patronize the gas station, you do have to drive by it, go to Hempel, and access through Hempel. So what the applicant is trying to do is give a scaled depiction of how the building will look in relation to the north, south, east, and west side. And you can see a little bit better in your plans as well. And so this is the property in question. It's got power lines overhead. It's got transmission and distribution. And I think when I get down to this point, the 7-Eleven goes away. But you can see that's the property, how it looks. With that, I will entertain any questions. You will be making the 3 motions for annexation for the small-scale comprehensive plan amendment from low-density residential to professional offices and services, and then the PUD land use plan. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
All right. Any questions up on the dais?
Is the gas station part of Ocoee now?
No, it's not. There's typically a property will seek annexation if it wants to, say, connect to city utilities. Well, it's not our utility service. And as we do have utilities across the road within the hospital environment, we looked at possibly trying to provide sewer to this parcel. It would require an amendment to the Orange County City of Ocoee joint utility agreement, but we've made those amendments. However, the gas station, from what I understand, was able to connect to the water in the front, and it received a permit from the Department of Health for a septic tank and drain field, so they didn't need to connect to sewer.
Any other questions?
And I'm seeing this building's 50-foot tall. Is there gonna be any line of sight issues with the neighboring community that's behind the property?
Right, so you'll see on the plan that they show, the building is obviously positioned forward, which is better than being in the rear behind them, which under a general height requirement would be 45 and 50 feet. Having it, you'll see on page, that he depicted an actual house. You'll see the address on there. On page, I grabbed the wrong plan.
It's on B2.
Okay, B2, okay. You'll see there's a depiction from the house to, there's a number of trees that the applicant is going to retain, so he shows you some really nice trees on this property. The distance from, I think, this house right here to the trees, and then also to the building. I believe there's 180-foot separation there, at least to the building.
If not, we'll ask the applicant to come up, give us an introduction there.
Good evening, Commissioners, and my name is Brian Denham. My address is 5212 Timberview Terrace in Orlando, and I'm the applicant. I'd like to thank the staff at the city, especially Mr. Roomer, for the assistance he's given, and also staff and utilities and so forth for discussing this project, and also Planning and Zoning Commission for allowing me to present my project. We propose, as Mr. Roomer indicated, a 32,000-ish square foot building. I think it's 32,400 on the southeast, at the southeast entrance into the city of Ocoee. And like Mr. Roomer said, we'll have parking in the parking lot as well as under the building, and stormwater under the parking lot as well. Business hours will be the normal office building business hours, roughly 8 to 5, which is in great contrast to the 7-Eleven next to it, which is a 24-hour 7-Eleven. And we will have, we're currently in Orange County, but we propose to annex, rezone, and do a comp plan within the city of Ocoee. Now, why annex into the city of Ocoee? Several reasons. One being setbacks. Ocoee's emphasis on their corridor and entrance to their city, and the importance of that, like other projects I've worked on in the city of Ocoee, it allows us to bring the building closer to the road. Thereby, it has several effects. One of them is helping to save the trees, which, for my interest, provides a better site, frankly increases rent rates because it's going to be a nicer development for people to go to, have places where they can maybe sit down in a park bench or something during lunch and have a bite. Additionally, saving those trees is going to be helpful to the residents. Keeping our building up front, what that does is, right now you have 7-Eleven that has roughly 85 feet to 105 feet to the homes. And then with my building being placed up front, that almost doubles. It goes from 150 to 209 feet separation. If I could, is that 01? Yeah, 01 would be great. Is it showing up any better?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. So this is our development building here. As you can see, this is eastbound Old Winter Garden Road. The 7-Eleven next to it. Apologies, we don't have an aerial to show it, but that's where it is. You can see how the 7-Eleven is much further back towards the residents compared to our building. That is their main building and their dumpster. All of that is beyond the furthest part of our building. We have existing trees. This is just showing existing trees that are being saved, the big trees. There's other trees out there, and there's other trees that we proposed, but these are only the ones that we're proposing to save, like 28-inch oaks, 24, 30-inch oaks, 42s as well.
I was remiss to say, show in the plan, that there is a requirement when you have non-residential adjacent to residential for buffering. So there will be a 6-foot wall with the appropriate landscape buffer. Irrespective of if for some reason the right-of-way is not vacated, and the property moves up, whatever the property line is, we'll have that requirement for the wall, and it's in the PD plan.
Okay, thank you. A couple more reasons. The city process of approval is quicker. It's quicker than Orange County. We tried to go through Orange County. We met with them at first. They have a very busy agenda, and we couldn't even get on for 6 months. And after that, you're not guaranteed for another year, so we had no idea how long it was going to take us to go through Orange County. And finally, we've worked on several projects with the city of Ocoee the last couple of years. It's been a very good experience, and we appreciate that. We've enjoyed working with the city. We felt it's been a fair experience with the city. Moving on to the elevations. Hopefully these are a better view. Okay, there you go. So this is the plan that shows actually the parking under the building, what that will look like. That's first floor parking, so offices are in the second and third floor above that. That's just our survey. This is the elevation looking at it from the west side. So this is if you're standing on 7-Eleven property looking at the building. Push this back? Okay, thank you. And so what it does, it looks at a cross-section from that western view, and it shows what the building will look like here with the existing trees shaded back and the cars. Everything gives you really a scale on what's going on. This is Old Winter Garden Road, and the multiple lanes, bike lanes, pedestrian lanes. This is the interesting part back here, though. These are existing trees, and they dominate mostly on the south end of the site. So what we wanted to do was keep these existing trees here, and you can see see is, as one of the commissioners mentioned, line of sight. We have a to-scale 6-foot person there and the house. Through this section, there's one house here, and then beyond it was another house that actually had a second story. So it gives you an idea, there's a 34-foot distance from the house to the property line, and we're quite further away here, 115 from the property line, so it's about 150 to the home here. So it gives you a good idea of scale and what you're looking at. There's a lot of trees are gonna block stuff. Not everything, but it'll block quite a bit. Similarly, looking from the east side, you have a home here to scale, and this actually shows, this shaded part back here is actually the 7-Eleven building, and that shows you how much closer the 24-hour gas station is to us, to the residents than we are. This is the further extent, and we only have a portion of the L coming back to the building, back towards the residents. Going back up on the other page, you'll see this area here shows the gas station canopy is kind of in front of you, and that's how far north the gas station canopy goes. And then over here, the gas station building is actually way closer to the residents than we are. I'll go to the next. Here's the front of the building. As you'll see from Old Winter Garden Boulevard, we propose to have our name, Ocoee Medical, on the top up there on our upper parapet. Most of it, I believe, is 45 feet. This front parapet right here goes an extra 5 feet just to kind of give it some architectural cohesion there. This also shows the gas station, what you're looking at from the gas station. This actually, as you look from the road, you can see their dumpsters here that ideally the gates are going to be closed. But it's quite the contrast, what we're seeing as you come in the city of Ocoee, seeing this medical office building as opposed to the very busy and always open gas station. Additionally, on the backside, looking from the residents here, and this is important, this is what I submitted to the city. I went beyond this on that next plan and showed what you would see from their yards. This is what you see if you're standing on our side of the property line, not having to look through the fences of the residents. You would see the existing trees here being kept. I didn't show the trees here because I thought you'd want to see what the building actually looks like and not just the trees. And then here's the 7-Eleven building here. Now if we go on the next, this one actually I added in the trees and the wall and 7-Eleven. Here's the fence here, the PVC fence from the residents. So that actually blocks a certain amount. They have very small oak trees here. Those are generous for what's actually out there, as well as magnolias. And we propose a solid wall here, the 6-foot masonry wall with the plantings behind it and the existing trees that are going to be behind it. So you'll just see a sliver of our building from there. And similarly, the rest of the way around, you'll have these existing trees here that we will maintain, and then this is the county retention pond over there that has a wrought iron fence that you can see through. So just to give scale, I really went all out on these elevations. Most people just show, here's the building, a bunch of square windows. So we wanted to give perspective on what was going on. This here shows the actual dimensions from the existing 7-Eleven to the different corners of the homes, anywhere from 85 to 105 to 89 feet, I think, here. And then from our building, it's quite more substantial in length as a separation from that 7-Eleven gas station. The other thing that we wanted to mention was, with regards to the elevations, the 7-Eleven signage, we wanted to be thoughtful of what are we doing to 7-Eleven with regards to their signage. This shows the two different points that we took photos at from vehicles in the turn lane. The first one here shows the first time you can actually see past this canopy and see the front part. The one mobile sign is right here. The other one is way back on the end over here. You can't see this one until you get really close up here. And as you can tell, those sight lines are not obstructed by our proposed building. So the view of the 7-Eleven canopy signage is actually improved by having a building there instead of the trees that are going to continue to grow and to continue to increase the obstruction of that. Let's see here. So I mentioned the signage. The other part, let me show you the visibility actually from the road there. That's the other view. That several different aerials show different times of the trees. Is there the other documents on there? Okay, good. This is actually the view So this is a view, and this actually shows how big those trees are and how much it blocks the view of 7-Eleven in addition to the power poles. And this is, I mean, you do have an A-pillar from your car blocking it too, but it's going to hinder what you actually see. It takes you getting almost up on the building before you can see what's going on. Though the signage out front does its job, you can see that from pretty far away. And like Mr. Rummer mentioned, that you do have to do a U-turn up here or turn on Hempel to get to the gas station. I don't think the bounce house is permanent, is it? No. So this is several views going in here, seeing the 7-Eleven. And like I mentioned, you have to get right up on it to start seeing the signage of the buildings here. The other things we have is just the benefits we bring to the city for this. You know, we really like this site. I love having trees on site. I'm not like a lot of engineers and developers that just go knock them down. I do appreciate them for the value and beauty they bring to the project. This project's gonna be a great entry corridor for the city of Ocoee. Have a beautiful building with a sign up on it, high use as far as medical office, and if I can calculate tax values correctly, it looks like it'll probably bring about $33,000 a year in tax value to the city, which I know the city's expanding employees, and it will help reduce the burden to the residents for their taxes. I know recently that the city, in an effort to reduce that burden to residents, reduced the millage rate. So that's about as much as I can present. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Again, I appreciate this opportunity to work with the city of Ocoee again, and we look forward to another successful project. Thank you.
Before I open the public hearing, any other questions for the applicant? All right, so at this point then, what we'll do is we will open the public hearing. I've got a few speaker requests already. If anybody else does want to speak, please fill out a request form and we'll be happy to hear you. Also, as you will note on this, it says that there is 5 minutes per speaker, so please try to keep your comments in that guideline there. And the first one I have is Elmer Carrier. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so we'll let you come on over, give your name and address, and get you started.
Thank you for allowing me to speak here this evening. My name is Elmer Carrier. I live at 3885 Shadow Wind Way, Coastal Florida. I already have a problem with politics. It comes up real fast. Money talks, and right off the bat, we're given a rule of 5 minutes speaking, and nobody else is given that rule at the beginning of the meeting. But I understand and I'll respect it. But anyway, I'm glad that he corrected the fact that when he said there was an east sewer. I've lived here in this area for 50 years. Other than the city of Ocoee, I don't know of any sewer over here by Orange County. One of the things I want to talk about is that you show a wall up there. One of the things that Orange County didn't mention back last year when they built the 7-Eleven, and I had a conversation with our commissioner. I invited her here tonight, Betsy Vanderlei. I invited her here tonight to join us at this meeting to speak in our behalf. Obviously, that didn't happen. Anyway, I do have communications from her and conversations that we had about the 7-Eleven. Alluded into the fact we had a telephone conversation with myself and several of my homeowners back on March 12th at 2:30 in the afternoon, 2018. And we talked about a fence or a wall. When I asked later on about that wall, what happened, well, Mr. Carey, you don't understand. Their property doesn't abut your property. And one of the things that is already brought up here, vacating Market Street. I was told that Market Street, half of it was vacated in our property back before the developers ever developed it. I can't believe, when you look at your prints and what have you here, it's showing Market Street, the remaining part is 30 feet. There's not a 60-foot road in Gotha. So if you're telling me that Market Street was originally 60 foot wide, and now they're getting 30 feet, if you go across the street from Hempel and you measure it from property line to property line, it's 30 feet. But obviously, when it comes over to our side, it jumped up to 60 feet, and evidently 30 feet of that is already within our property. I have a tough time believing that. But I want to get back to the wall. Because Market Street was not vacated, no wall was required. But it was alluded to the fact to me and homeowners in a telephone conversation with Vanderlei. Now here's what, now I don't know if the same property owner owns this or not, because you go to county records, 7-Eleven, that corner C1, there's been no sales on that property since 2010. But there's a 7-Eleven sitting there today. If you go to county records and you look, and you read, and I asked, so I came back, and they says, well, I want to read something here from you from the commissioner's office down in Orange County. Good afternoon, Mr. Carrier. I was asked to get with you and update you on a petition to vacate Market Street. The public hearing has not been scheduled, and we still do not have any timeline for scheduling. The pre-application for the petition to vacate was held on January 10th, 2018, January 10th. They hadn't even broke ground yet. Property, bottom line is the homeowner or the property owners were required to obtain letters of no objections from the utility companies. Never happened. They never got no letters. Orange County never had no meeting. There's never been a public hearing on it yet. So what assurance do we have here today that Market Street is going to be, that we're not going to hear the same story again, that, well, they never provided the proper paperwork, so Market Street wasn't vacated, therefore we don't owe you a wall. But out of respect, I would, if you stood on some of those properties, like Mr. Huck that lives there, literally where you're showing in your drawings and what have you, that fence, if they would put a parking place right there, the guy could literally spit in his swimming pool. It's that close. His house is that close to that property line. So for the, and other neighbor just to the east, the closest one to me, it's even closer than that. So we respectively are asking, I know we're not going to be able to defeat big government, but I'm here sharing our feelings. We would like that fence or that wall to be moved up to 8 feet. If possible, we'd appreciate that, because if a car drives our property, it doesn't show in your straight lines there. When you show that property in that sight line, you're showing a flat line there. Those properties actually sit down behind that fence. We have a water problem there. I've lived there 20 years. 20 years I lived there before the community was even finished. I live on the north retention pond. If you will look on the earlier drawing or a picture that he showed of that north retention pond, lived there 20 years, never had water in it for over a day. Now we get a 7-Eleven in there. We've had water in that pond since May of last year, and it's still water there today. 20 years I've lived there. Got other homeowners that live right here on that retention pond and can attest to that fact. I can actually show you film footage because we have an aerial view of our community. Out of respect for our former president, did some aerial views of our community a couple of years ago. We have some of those. It showed the retention ponds then and shows the retention ponds today. Retention pond had no water. I'm not saying it has anything to do with 7-Eleven, but boy, it sure is strange. But anyway, I just want assurances that what the builder and the landowners and what have you are going to propose that they do. I would like to see them, if they do vacate Market Street, we have I know you don't live there, But when you come out of our community now, coming up Hempel there to make a right-hand turn onto Old Winter Garden Road, I would like to request a traffic study there because we've had a lot of near misses. Like he says, they come down to the traffic light, and they make a left, and they try to make a left right in front of 2 turning lanes to get in there. And you're driving up there, and there's always somebody wanting to shoot across of you, right in front of you there. That was one of the other things I had asked Betsy Vanderlei last year. Well, who has the curb cut rights? It's funny, you tell me that property's Orange County, but City of Ocoee is the one that dictates the curb cuts on Orange County property. I don't get it, because my understanding, you can only have a curb cut within a certain footage of a traffic light. And now all of a sudden, well, Mr. Carrier, we didn't approve those, the City of Ocoee did. So the City of Ocoee is approving curb cuts in Orange County. I don't get that. I don't understand that. Bottom line, I think the reason that they want to annex into the City of Ocoee, one, the biggest reason, in my opinion, it comes back to the sewer. There is no sewer east of there. There's septic tanks. Their salvation is to tie in and impact Ocoee's utility system and their sewer system. Without that sewer system, they're limited on what they can put on that property. And I'm not, the other thing that is brought up to me by the homeowners they would rather see a 2-story building than a 3-story building. If you drive down Hempel, come from the south, and look right straight across the street, and you see that 50-foot building they're talking about, one just like it. And I look at that in my backyard, that is huge. That is huge. Yes, the trees are huge, but they're trees. There's hawks, there's eagles, there's everything else that we sit there and enjoy in our backyards. I get to see nature once in a while. The hawk come in there and get what I call the tree rats, the squirrels. It's nice, you know, but I see that going away. I appreciate the fact that you're trying to save some of the trees. I get that. I know Arlington Street has not been talked about here. It would also have to be vacated according to your drawings and where you're putting some of the parking and some of the other stuff over there next to our retention pond. That is Arlington Street. It has not been vacated from my understanding. So they would have to also to apply to get Arlington Street vacated. Folks, that's what I've got to say. I appreciate your time. I really would like you to hear our neighbors, and I just think it was sad that, well, they didn't vacate Market Street, so they don't have to build that wall. Thank you for your time.
Question?
Thank you. Question?
Yes. Mr. Carrier,
Yes, sir.
is what you're seeking an 8-foot tall wall?
Well, I'm seeking that. Actually, I sit right on the retention pond there to the right of that. I'm here for my neighbors. At my age, maybe for my children later on, when I leave this world, they may get the property, but it's not going to bother my view. I have a pretty good view of the retention pond. Actually, back in 2004 and 2005, when all those hurricanes come through here, that's the only other time I've seen water in that pond. Matter of fact, I was going to take my bass boat out there and run it around, but that water only stayed there 8 hours and it was gone. That's the thing that puzzles me this year as to why that retention pond has maintained full this year and never has before.
If I may,
I would like to see 7-Eleven get their wall done for those homeowners. That I really personally feel that it was underhanded the way it was handled, because we were given an assurance that it would happen, and then later on it was, and I understand there's rules and regulations and laws, I get that, but that was never told to us up front.
I was just trying to focus on the specifics of what your goal is here.
My goal is to let you know the impact on our community and the homeowners that live there, and some of their desires that if this goes through, that they'd like to see the 8-foot wall instead of a 6-foot wall, and then they would be able to take down our existing PVC fence and tie in their PVC fence, because from what I understand to your planner here, they have to put the good side of the looking wall facing the community, and we definitely don't want that right up against our fence. So we would remove our fence, and just the particular homeowners would tie their fence into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a lot of, actually, my insight, I have a lot of answers to his questions he brought up. Very extremely brief answers, and we can expand on them later if you'd like, but just for the commission's sake, if you wouldn't mind, I could pop off real quick answers that would give him a lot of insight to 7-Eleven as well as our project.
Okay, and I'm sort of going to ask Mike how this works. Does the applicant get,
We'll wait to the end.
or normally at the end?
Yeah, hopefully
Okay.
everyone's not repetitive, so we can hit
All
all
right.
the points.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Thank you for your time there, Mr. Carey. Thank you. All right, Mark McAllister? Yes, sir. Hope I'm pronouncing the last names right here.
And Mr. Chairman, while he's coming up, I'll just state that the petition vacate that goes through the county process, the property appraiser's office dictates, they research, and where the paper right-of-way came from, there it returns. So the property appraiser's office decides where the vacated road will end up. It's not a city or county, it's the property appraiser.
All right, go ahead there.
Good evening,
Your name and,
Commissioner.
your name and address, and then go ahead.
Yes. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mark McAllister. I live at 3980 Shadowwind Way in Gotha, within the confines of Falcon Point, which is the neighborhood just to the south of the proposed property change. I'm not going to, Mr. Carrier had hit a lot of points that I'm concerned about, but I'll try to not be repetitive in some of the things in respect for everybody's time here. I do appreciate your time to listen to the public, as it is important. I appreciate what you're trying to do, Mr. Dunn, but my issue for being here is you're circumnavigating Orange County and trying to use Ocoee to get around after you've tried to redistrict that property, and it didn't work. At least you pulled your application when Scott Boyd was the commissioner there. We're a strong community. We're a privately managed community, and we pride ourselves on our neighbors. It's a small area, much like Ocoee. I grew up in Ocoee. I remember where where Health Central was, where all the orange trees used to be, and I'm just watching as the development continues, and it's less and less of that I remember as a child, and it's more office buildings, and every time you turn, there's some kind of project going up. The reason why I live here, not only did I grow up here, but I live here because it is developed, and you go to the east parts of the city, of Orlando, and it's just on top of each other. I don't want to be out there. Or you try to go down to down 535, it's a nightmare with traffic, and this is really what's happening here. I know that Commercial 1 was what was districted or zoned there for that 7-Eleven, but there was no changing that. That was already zoned, but we did try to fight that one as well. But since that property has been there, it's been a significant increase in traffic. There's been many accidents there. Between careless drivers and distracted drivers, it really poses a threat to us as residents and the other surrounding adjacent areas. So I look at for public safety as an issue, because I watch people try to do careless operations with their vehicle, like trying to turn and do U-turns to get into that 7-Eleven, or they're trying to get in from the Hempel access point when the traffic light's all backed up. It really has turned into a mess. And with your proposed 200+ parking spots, I really just don't see how it's going to be any benefit to us. Not to mention the noise factor. Mr. Carey did mention the storm drainage, and that is a concern to me as well, because he did mention that several of the residents, he was talking about the drainage pond there being full. It's never been full. And since they put the 7-Eleven in, it has been constantly full. almost to the point where everybody along that, the east side of Hempel, if you can see on the picture here behind you, is suffered from a lot of the flooding. I don't know if it's been engineered properly, but I just don't see how you know, the drainage is gonna work. The ground is really starting to get saturated there from, I guess, their in-ground tanks that are supposed to put it back into the aquifer and the soil, but it's really filling in that area. I apologize. So just, my biggest take from this is also invasion of privacy. You talked, I appreciate your move to try to put it as forward, closer to the road, away from the residents, but at 50 feet tall, at the nearest point, which I believe you said was 147 feet, at 50 feet is right there versus the 106 feet at 15 feet, which is what the 7-Eleven is. It's a huge drastic difference. To me, it's an invasion of privacy for the homeowners that are already there. You know, we are supportive of our community. I do love Ocoee. I think it's, what you guys do here is great. I ask that you guys do not consider the annexation. I don't feel that this property here is worth your time or what dollar's gonna come in there. I apologize, Ms. Denham, but that's how I feel, and I try to speak for my community. So, thank you, appreciate it. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
All right, no, thank you very much for
Yes,
your,
sir. Thank you.
Mr. McAllister. Next, Edward Huck.
I would just reiterate what Harry said, and so there's no point in getting up there and wasting your time.
All right, well, thank you very much, appreciate that. And last but not least, Doreen Hargraves, I'm assuming you're for this?
I am.
Okay, as well.
Like, we were driving. I think I thought it goes better, I think it's really just rumbled. My name is Doreen Hargraves. I reside in the Oaks of Windermere and Gotha. For more than 10 years, I've sat and participated with the Gotha Community Association in protecting the rural settlement. Since this property backs up to the rural settlement, we're very concerned with the build-out. We're very concerned with you changing and annexing it in and changing our footprint. In Gotha, we have children that come to school on a horse. There's a girl that comes to school on a horse. Mom takes her on a horse. We like the feel of Gotha, and if you annex it in, it's going to give him permission to make the changes. And what makes Gotha unique is our subdivisions, our single-family homes, our 5 to 10 acre lots, and we have Health Central that is building so much on the other side of the street and becoming so large, it really is impacting Hempel Avenue. So having more businesses come in and more doctor's offices and the possibility of a 3-story building is concerning. So we're asking that you don't annex it, that you don't allow the changes to be made. And since that has a Gotha address, that's where we come in. So we're just gonna ask that you don't annex it, that you don't change it. I spoke with Orange County property appraiser today. They are not sure if it's zoned commercial or it's still low residential. Can someone clarify that for me? It's low residential.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think before you came in, they had mentioned there was low-density residential.
We would love it if you keep it that way. I mean, the neighbors at Falcon Point, we do have a real drainage issue all through Gotha. I reside in Oaks of Windermere, and the water was over the road and halfway up my driveway, and my house is offset 25 feet from the center of the street. And there were other areas in Gotha as well that had drainage issues, so we're just gonna ask you not to annex it, not to change the zoning on it, to keep it low residential, and to really respect the residents that have the most impact in Falcon Point and Lake Fisher Estates as well. That's it.
Thank you for your time, Ms. Hargraves. All right, any other? All right, hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing.
He's still, his is still.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's still part of the
yeah, I'm
public
sorry, I forgot.
Real quick, while he's walking up, I got a question. The 7-Eleven, what is that? Is that Orange County or is that Ocoee?
Orange County.
All right, sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, so Mr. Carey had a lot of very valid points that, looking at this for over a year, they have been answered in different areas I've been able to figure out. So for sewer, unfortunately for me, I've got to spend a lot of money to get sewer to this property. I would love to do septic on this site, but we went through with the Department of Health, worked with them on it, and it would just be too big. That kind of medical office building is just too big to do septic. That's why 7-Eleven did septic, because they have such a small restroom facility. Their septic system is very, very small, so they didn't have to go. We do have sewer in 3 different places with Ocoee and 1 place with Orange County. They're all pretty far away as far as what Ocoee owns and the county owns. Hospital has one across the street and up the road a bit. We'd have to negotiate with them in order to tie into that. It would be a lot closer, it'd be cheaper for us. I would love to do that. The other places are pretty far away. That's our biggest utility we have to spend for because of the distance off-site. For the water, Orange County is right on my side of the street, so it's a saving grace for the utilities. So that answers for the sewer. The fence or the wall, that really was 7-Eleven. I did hear that they mentioned they were going to do a wall and they never did it. They didn't have to vacate their portion of Market because their site doesn't need to go back that far. So they didn't. They probably should have because of the traffic turns. It would have given them an extra 30 feet of grace for turning in for traffic. That's one of the reasons the city requested that we provided stub out, is because in case we were able to get a connection to Hempel and realign 7-Eleven's entrance to be with ours, it pulls it 30 feet further south and helps with some of those conflict points on the traffic. 60-foot right-of-way, so Market Street and, what's the other one? Arlington, thank you. Market and Arlington, they used to be county right-of-ways. County usually has bigger right-of-ways, 60-foot right-of-ways, maybe even 66 sometimes. This was traditionally a 60-foot right-of-way. It was never built out. Subdivision came in, so they got half of it. Traditionally, one property owner gets half, the other property owner gets half. So the 30 feet is already incorporated into that subdivision. So Orange County's staff and other people down there confirm that the rest of it automatically goes to the other side. When we go through a process for application for that. So that's the right-of-way. And a couple of other things, mentioned sewer. We've never applied for anything with the county. I just went there and met with them, talked with them for a while, and realized it was going to be a big headache. So we did not apply. I do know that I don't know why they're not listed on the property appraiser's side of selling, but they did sell that property around January of 2018, January, February. So it actually did trade hands. And we did reach out to 7-Eleven, and I found out that 7-Eleven no longer has that site as a corporate store. However, they give it off to the franchisee. So there was even another change after that. So the franchisee is really who you want to talk to about a wall. Mentioned about trips, noise. We live in not too far from here, and I can hear fireworks from Disney and Universal. I know on a cloudy day it could bounce off the clouds. I would like to think that a building of that size would block the nearby East-West Expressway's noise from coming through the trees. That's just a little bit of help. On the front side of our building is proposed 50 feet for the parapet in that section. On the back side is 45. I think the other buildings, if it goes through the county, they would allow 35 or 40, so there's not that much of a difference. But being that physically far away, I try to show in those sections that height is really reduced when you pull it that far away and you have all the trees in front of it. I do know about the pond as well, about the water in the pond. We have many projects throughout Central Florida. St. John's has told us that, look, 20 years ago, and this is 2002, 2001, it was in a drought time. That's when a lot of these subdivisions and projects were developed, and the seasonal high water table was just down. I'm feeling on other projects to where seasonal high water levels are up. We've got dry ponds and several projects that were built 20 years ago that are wet now, and we have to deal with that because it's historical highs now compared to when they were designed at historical lows. So we're gonna feel in our projects as well. There is a sliver of our site that is close to that commercial, so that may be the confusion as far as if it's commercial or low res. And that's all the things that I could hit on answering. And if there's any additional questions from the commission, I'd be happy to answer as well, as much as I can.
And then, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add one note with respect to annexation. This is a zoom-in of our joint planning area map agreement with Orange County. This solid line is the line of the sand where we say we will not annex outside of that line. And as you see, this is the subject properties right here. This line was put around these properties in 1994. If there was anybody that wants to come in and develop, at some point would have to annex by law, because we have to have a joint planning area map. It's within our JPA. It's just not our utility boundary. So that doesn't trigger them to first think about the city. It would be during the development process, they should come to the city and annex. So that's why it's not considered, these properties must not be considered GOTA, because that was the crux of the reason of the JPA, because the city was looking to annex some properties in Gotha, and the county sued us. So these properties were, since 1994, shown to be, they need to be in the city of Ocoee in the future. So that's the second right for annexation, besides the adjacency.
Any other additional, questions off the dais?
If I may.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Is there a prohibition that would not allow the construction of an 8-foot high wall?
No, you just do not typically see 8-foot tall walls but probably industrial. It's a little bit more cost. It'd probably be tilt wall maybe, or a precast, but you just don't generally see 8-foot walls. They're just not typically deemed as being, pleasant to see, because
And we've heard concerns about that, of the height of the wall, sewer access versus septic. We've heard drainage matters and the pond and line of sight with the height of the building and so forth. I'm not sure what can be done about a number of those things, but.
well, under our commercial code, the maximum height under commercial is 45 feet. And you are allowed for appurtenances a 10% deviation to go up above. So on the front, that parapet going an extra 5 foot is just really not much of an encroachment. The rear 45 foot meets what the commercial zoning would be adjacent to.
So the
That
problem
site that's,
with an 8-foot high wall is what, cosmetic?
yeah, it's just not something you typically do on a buffer between residential. But there's nothing, the comprehensive plan and the land development code calls for a buffer of a 6-foot wall and plantings. If you were gonna go above that, that's obviously not a big deal. To go smaller than that, that would be violating the comp plan and land development code. So you could go taller than 6 foot.
Our intent is to have the plantings above the wall, whether it's bamboo, which would go way higher than any wall, or crepe myrtles, different things like that. I try to get very creative with landscaping. Even podocarpus, that makes a solid line, and they get very tall.
Just trying to focus on some item that might be resolvable.
Sure. And we're happy to work with the residents to talk about this, and I've even got some ideas to help them with 7-Eleven.
Thank you very much.
Well, all right. The additional question. The one thing that I would mention is, because with the retention ponds, I understand your concern. We live across from Hackney Prairie Lake, and when they first got it, they put a floating dock in there, and that floating dock hasn't floated probably at least 14 years now. It's floating again. So I'm not so sure that the issue is much the gas station as it's possibly just that we are in a higher water level. So that would be my only concern on that. I'm sure they have something to do with adding to it, but as far as the overall, I would think that it's just the time of year that we need to wait for the water to go back down. I mean, quite frankly, I like the floating dock, so I'm happy with what I've got over there, but for retention ponds and things like that, I know that does become an issue.
Mr. Chairman, that does bring up an item I could educate the audience on. This is just the first phase. The next step is a preliminary site plan, or they can combine the preliminary and final, and that preliminary site plan is required to go through the public hearing process again. Most times, people combine the preliminary and final, so you'll see at the next step, at the public hearing, you will see the engineered plans, you will see the sign-off from St. John's Water Management District on their proposed drainage concept, whatever it turns out to be. So there is another step, there is another public purview, and to be able to see in presentation showing the actual civil engineered plans that'll be constructed to if it were to go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman, can I ask a question?
Well, come on up to the mic there, and we'll let you ask a quick question there.
And also, this is not Orange County. This Planning and Zoning Commission just makes a recommendation to the city commission. They're not the final authority like at Orange
Right.
County.
One of the things that you mentioned, and one of the things that everybody sitting here mentioned, but if that water's high right now, how are they gonna maintain their water if that water level's already high? How are they gonna keep that water on the property if it's already saturated and it's already full and it's already up there?
Mr. Roomer, obviously, something's gonna go in there sometime. What are the other possibilities that are allowed by what would be the new zoning?
Well, if you looked at if you were looking to do due diligence on this property, it's low-density residential and A1. So at 1.25 acres, you could put one house on it under the county, and you would either have to put a driveway, face Old Winter Garden Road, and have a driveway straight onto the property from Old Winter Garden Road, or if the county lets you put it in this paper right-of-way just to kind of get some distance from it. Under and if you look at transitioning, you have commercial, low-density residential, a pond. That transitioning would say you have commercial right next door, so commercial would be appropriate. Commercial C1, which would have gas stations like you have there, little retail shops, little restaurants. So you have and under commercial, you can have office in the commercial zoning. So, if you look at this corner, there's a little outdoor barbecue place and a little convenience store.
Thank you.
All right, I am going to close the public hearing, no one else from the public. And we'll bring it back to the dais. Is there any other comments? All right, this does require 3 motions. So the first motion that we would need would be one to annex the property at 3872 Winter Garden Road, which is project AX-07-18-75.
Mr. Chairman, I think that the prospect of something else being used on that property, it's hard to envision, in my mind, something better than for that site than a medical facility. On the basis of that and everything else I've heard here this evening, I move that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of this annexation of 3872 Old Winter Garden Road PUD. That's annexation AX-07-1875.
All right, can I have a second? Yes, no?
There is no second.
There is no second. At this point, that means the annexation dies for lack of a second.
The recommendation for approval. You still need to make a recommendation.
Okay,
Or you could pass the gavel.
let's see. My only concern in passing the gavel is you're going to get a 2-2 vote, which is still going to get us nowhere. Do we need to have the small comprehensive plan or the rezoning if we don't have an annexation?
Right, so you'd have to have a motion to not recommend approval of the annexation.
Okay.
And then that would therefore.
I'll make a motion to not recommend annexation of 3872 Old Winter Garden Road.
All right, and is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion not to approve the annexation by Member Mellon, seconded by Member Bernstein. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against signify by saying no.
No?
No, which is what I thought would happen, is we're gonna have a 2-2 tie, unfortunately, with our fifth member missing. Where does that put us?
We will proceed to the city commission and let them know that the Planning and Zoning Commission was unable to recommend approval or denial, and that there's no recommendation from the P and Z on the annexation, and therefore you never reached the issue of the comp plan or the rezoning.
All right. Okay.
Do we have to vote on the comp plan and zoning also?
We can if it's not
We
annexed.
have no jurisdiction.
Yeah, we have no jurisdiction, so we can't rezone it if we don't annex it.
Got it, okay.
So, all right.
Is
Okay.
there any feedback when we say we do this and it gets approved? How does that work? Like, if you have to do a certain thing that gets approved?
Just it goes to the city commission, they'll see the P and Z's comments, and you have the same presentation, and
Okay.
they make the ultimate decision.
We just make the approval, or we just make a recommendation, they'll make the final approval, so it'll just go on with saying that we couldn't make a recommendation one way or the other.
So it doesn't have to have a recommendation on land use or rezone from the board, is that right? For
It
the
has
city
to-
council act?
It has to go before the planning and zoning as a public hearing for Florida statute, so we've had the public hearing.
Okay, okay. So if we resolve things, then they could possibly approve all three?
The city commission can approve it or deny it,
Okay.
but there's,
Yeah.
I think if they approve it, it comes back here for the other, the comprehensive and rezoning.
You
No,
wouldn't see it
they
till
would do
site
the whole
plan.
thing.
Would they do the whole
You'll
Yeah.
see site plan next.
yeah.
Yeah, we would next see a site plan if it passes. Has the applicant for the Arden Park North gotten
I
here
don't
yet?
see them here, so let's go to the next item.
All right. Let's move along to the Ocoee Towns Shops. Again, a public hearing, and again, City Planner Ruber. Thank you.
All right, this property is located on the corner, the northwest corner of Clark Road and West Colonial Drive. The property is adjacent to the Kane's Furniture and across from the 408. The property is about 3.39 acres in size. It has a existing PUD, planned unit development for commercial and retail restaurant use. And for specifically, the current approval is for 9,585 square feet of restaurant space and 15,700 square feet of retail and restaurant space. The site, as you can see, is cleared not as a result of the property owner, other than he had it under contract and the guy that had it under contract cleared it. So, and that, he walked away from the contract. So you'll see that's why the property's cleared, and we make sure it's mowed every once in a while, as does the property owner. What the item, and it has a commercial zoning. This is the original approval. It has, this is the 9,000 square foot of restaurant space, the retail, the 15,000 retail split up. In this plan, you don't see a stormwater pond. It too was planning to have stormwater underneath the parking areas. That's what that's depicting. This approval went back to 2009 and December 1st, 2009. The property owner, this is the same property owner that's held it the whole time, he is proposing today a different development plan. And that is the change is considered a substantial change because we're changing the land use plan. We're not really increasing the amount of use, which would also be a substantial, or the location access points, which the access points are off this Jacob Nathan Road and Clark Road with a cross-access to the parcel that's being developed in the rear. He's proposing to change this. This was, in the original approval, only allowed to be restaurant space. And so it's this footprint that's changing, that's necessitating the substantial amendment to the PD plan. So this is the new plan before you. You will see there is a stormwater retention pond proposed. It's not going to provide it underneath the parking. There is the same retail building. If you go back, this building was up here, parking. You now have a smaller building with the pond. And this is the major change to the land use plan, which is necessitating it coming back before you. They're proposing a I forget the lot size building, a larger, I think 15,000 square foot, which would be suited into different retail suites that could be a restaurant or retail space fronting Colonial Drive. Other aspects of the site remain the same. There's under the original approval, this wall, and there's a fountain element that the commission really wanted to, and staff, to kind of match all four corners, sort of have a fountain. They're maintaining that. They just have not had, and they can come up and speak, luck getting a standalone restaurant at that site and want to change it to a mixed retail restaurant site. This is the proposed elevations of the building that would face 50. It would kind of have two fronts. If you've seen the property on the northeast corner of Clark and 50 in front of the Michaels, you see the back of there's a building up on 50, a little pond, but you see it's the back of house. You can tell it's the back of the building. The front faces Michaels and Best Buy. They tried to provide an architectural detail where it will be, it won't just be obvious that there's the Highway 50 side will be the back. It'll kind of appear like it's the front as well. With that, I entertain any questions. It's a simple modifying the plan to include a building in this space. It's not just restaurant. It allows restaurant, retail. The stormwater pond aspect is nothing that necessitates the rezoning. It's simply this building.
Okay, any questions on the dais?
No, other than, do we know any like possible future tenants of these spaces?
As of my meeting the other day, no. But they may have something. Their broker is here.
One thing I see here that I don't recall seeing in any previous application is that the Development Review Committee last week made a recommendation of no objection.
Well, that's where the code requires rezonings to go to the Development Review Committee, and that's kind of like the project before because there are some site plan implications. This one, there's no site plan. When they're looking at the rezoning, there's no site plan implications. And so they're not saying that, they don't want to say, we recommend based off the site plan, land development code, not site, no land development code implications. So they just said they have no objection to the
Thank you,
rezone.
because that was new to me, and it sounded like less than an enthusiastic action.
Yes. We've done it a couple times on some, even land uses, or it's in a land use that has full facilities, or a land use that does not have facilities, and they have to run a good distance to get all those facilities. They may have an objection because of what it's gonna take to get, on the city's behalf, to get them services. We did have an annexation that the Development Review Committee one time recommended denial, and by code, that does not go forward. So you get them every once in a while.
Okay, so it's not an indication.
It's not just, they didn't want to be we want restaurant. Well, we're in the land development code, does it require only a restaurant? They
Thank
didn't
you.
want to make that clear.
All right. Okay, next thing it has on here is opening public hearing. Do we need to bring up the
You want to make a presentation?
Do you have a presentation you want to make? We'll add you into the the list here that I've got. And please just state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, I'm Bill Hawkins Smith, Florida Engineering Group, 5127 South Orange Avenue, Orlando. I'm here tonight representing Dr. Koskin. He bought this site back in 2007, went through the PUD process in 2009. Then we had the slowdown. I mean, he's marketed the property. Mike has marketed the property, trying to get, a restaurant in there. And we had a potential buyer back in 2017. We went through the pre-construction meeting. He cleared the site, and Mike said he backed out of the contract. We've tried to get a major, restaurant there. We've looked at traffic over the last 20 years. When traffic peaked about 2006, 2007, but as of 2017, it's actually less than the 1999 traffic. Traffic is hopefully picking back up now that 50 is done, but you've had, the Turnpike 429, there's a lot of other major roads that are taking traffic away from this intersection. I mean, it's a very nice corner. You've got a lot of exposure on Colonial, coming off the 408. You've got a lot of exposure, so we're trying to capitalize on that. We did provide Mike an updated site plan and building plan yesterday.
Do I not have it?
No, you don't have the latest one.
Now, are these just for example, or are these?
No, that is our latest architecture rendering. It's just an enhancement of what Mike has in his package.
Well, no, I'm just looking at, like, it says Bistro Grill and all that. Is that? It's generic. It's okay.
Yeah, what's your, on the right side, you can see more of an active porch to trying to really designate that end cap would want to be a restaurant. That's what you're seeing on each side, so those end caps. That's a quick thing I noticed.
I mean, we are reducing our PUD about 2,700 square feet, primarily because we're going from underground to surface pond. That's taken up a lot of our surface area. The driveways are the same as the original PUD. One thing this plan is showing, one of the views is State Road 50 and one's the parking lot. We are proposing signage on both of those frontages. That way you're not looking at the back of the building from State Road 50. It looks like an actual storefront. We've got a lot of glass in the buildings, variations in the roof line, columns, awnings, canopies. It's a very attractive building. We are maintaining some type of water feature on the intersection. That was a previous requirement, and we're maintaining that to mirror what the mall has. Can you plug in a flash drive?
Yes.
Okay. Always, okay. Oh. Okay, go ahead. You can go. This is another development by Dr. Koskin. We completed this within the last 2 years. Lake Underhill, across from Florida Hospital. You can see the same type of features, varying roof lines. You've got, columns projecting out front, a lot of landscaping. Here you can see the same thing we're talking about, the columns, variation roof lines, the columns and canopies. This will be on the parking lot side and the Sayward 50 side. That was just the pond across the street last week. Hopefully ours will look a lot better than that. One of the things we are dealing with is at intersections, you've got the NASTAR, you've got the power lines all along Clark Road. We're proposing signage, someplace at that intersection here, one down at our entrance on Clark Road, another on Jake and Bacon. This is Turner Power Lines, that's on Clark Road. That's our view of the site back here, westbound Sayward 50, and again, coming off the 408. Any questions?
The eateries, will any of them have drive-through service?
This one has the, you can see in the original plan, this one has the ability to have drive-through, just this building. And that ability's still there, this would not have the ability, you can't drive around it.
Diners, would these restaurants be of the type that diners would be using actual utensils to dine with, such as knives and forks and spoons, or fingers only?
Well, it's
Okay.
it's, yeah,
And if it's utensils, are they immediately thrown into the plastic recycling bin, or are they washed and reused? What level of?
Let me get Mike up here, he's the broker.
Member
Thank
Wonderlic,
you.
yeah, we don't have a criteria.
I understand,
On,
I'm just
Still
curious,
ask the question.
Within impact fees, we do,
what
but
kind
not.
of, what level of service there would be?
Yes, go.
Good evening. My name is Michael Sharon. I'm with the Real Property Specialist Commercial Broker here in town. Office is 2345 West Sand Lake Road in Orlando. And as the broker with the listing on this property for most of the past 10 years, we've been actively marketing it to seeking to meet the city's desire and our desire, because this corner's been considered a gateway to the city, and that's the way we have pitched it, not only locally at many, many conventions, but also in Las Vegas. Back to your point, the present approved plan has a 9,500 square foot, maybe a 5,000 and a 4,500, whatever, restaurant on the corner that obviously had no drive-through for that. There is a fast food quick service restaurant type of pad to the north, and we do get calls on that. The biggest play right now is to look to put the building, an attractive building. That's what looks like it's gonna be the play here. Frankly, you're aware, maybe overly aware, of lack of new family sit-down type of restaurants in this portion of West Colonial Drive right now.
Yes.
There have been some in front of the mall. The mall's not overly been happening. There was a restaurant that sat empty. I think they tore it down, ready to come with something, and it didn't happen. So essentially, we're trying to come up with more of a strip-type building up by the road, hopefully potentially putting strong restaurants on both end caps is what the play would be. No, we don't have them secured at this time, but with attractive building, and that's what we're looking to put here at this time. On Clark Road, there's a strip. Mike was very clear, he didn't want something taken like what's already on Clark Road, frankly, almost a cheap, plain building on Clark and flipping that over on Colonial. That's not what we're looking to do. We're looking to bring an asset to the city. Again, it's a gateway to the city. Put an attractive building with glass on both sides, similar to what's being done at Winter Garden Village, say Five Guys Burgers or a number of the restaurants there that are on Dillard. The building, you have the road, you have the attractive retail building, in this case got the restaurants or, got small dress shop, Payless Shoes, a mattress guy, or a wireless guy, whatever the case might be, and signage on both sides and parking in the rear. That's the concept we're looking to do. That's what most of the cities are moving the zoning to. So essentially, I did see in the last building, they put an office building, they put it on the road and the parking behind. That's kind of what the concept's been going to. So, didn't directly answer your question, but I think your question was exactly would they be throwing stuff into the fountain? I don't know. The concept we're trying to do also would be very similar to, say, if you go to Dr. Phillips, the Bay Hill area, if you go to Sand Lake Road, right at the corner there of Dr. Phillips Boulevard and Sand Lake, you got a Publix across the street and a Publix in the center. The main corner right there has a small strip retail building out by the road. You got the road, Sand Lake Road, there's a fountain, the building, have World of Beers on one end, Chipotle on the other end, another restaurant in the middle, but it's a small retail building, very attractive, glass on both sides that we're proposing here, and parking in the field behind it. That's what we're looking to bring to Ocoee.
I like the phrase you used about family sit-down restaurant. Might actually feature wait staff, menus, and things like that, as a place to have as a little neighborhood jewel.
Well, we've certainly been looking for a long time. I personally know Buffalo Wild Wings took a run at this a couple of different times, and we did not secure them. We've shown it to the BJ's Club, the large one that's in front of the malls right now. I personally pushed very hard with that. We've also pitched it Twin Peaks, which is a very fine restaurant. We've shown it to basically every chain you can name. The Bloomin' Group, we presented it to them. We presented it to a number of them. So essentially, we're changing the whole concept. We think it's gonna take a very attractive building, and that's what we're looking to present. It's not gonna be a cheap building to build, gonna charge the rents accordingly, think it'll be an asset to the city. That's the only way we really think we're gonna be able to draw somebody here.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, this is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who is interested in speaking? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais. There's only one motion necessary for this. So can I have a motion to approve a substantial amendment to the PUD land use plan for Ocoee Landings Project RZ-18-06-08?
I'll make that motion to approve the substantial PUD amendment on the project number RZ-18-06-08.
All right, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I will second that. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion from Member Mellon. We have a second from Member Wunderlich. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, it passes unanimous.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. What do we want to do with
I think
our
you
north?
can hear, I mean, I think where the property's located, I think it's an infill piece. I think you're fine listening to it.
All right.
Can we take a
And I'll,
Yeah, we're going to take a,
1 minute back?
yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break here and come back. We'll give you enough time so you don't have to run. meeting and talk about the Arden Park North Phase 4A. Again, a public hearing, and City Planner Robert.
Yes, this is the Phase 4A of the Arden Park PUD subdivision. It's adjacent to Ingram Road, and it's really just kind of it's on the east side of Ingram Road, just interior to the subdivision. The parcel I have highlighted here, Phase 1 of Arden Park on the south side of Ocoee Road. You have Phase 2 on the north side here. You have Phase 3. Phase 3 includes the new clubhouse and swimming pool. There's one in Phase 1, and then this is Phase 4A. There will be, Arden Park initially came in, I don't even remember who it was, Beezer or somebody. Then Cal Atlantic, or Standard Pacific, purchased it and developed actually developed the first phase and started on the second phase when it was purchased by, I'm going to forget the name, they became Cal, maybe it was Ryland or Lennar, and it was Cal Atlantic, one headquarters was Atlantic side, the other in California. And they did Phase 2, and then in part of 3, and now either Ryland or Lennar has ownership, and they're actually trying to get the preliminary and final plan approved for all the remaining phases and construct them out. It's a big review. This is the first one. At the next planning and zoning meeting, we're hoping to bring Phase 4, B, and 5. As part of the plan unit development requirements, they have to, at this stage, so it's 90 lots, lot sizes from 45 to, I think 85. I don't have the staff report in front of me. I wasn't ready for it. And it's just another set of lots, internal. They'll still be using the main entrance point off of Ocoee Road. The additional entrance point comes with this later phase, which will be to you very soon. What's integral about this phase of the development of Arden Park is they now have to design and engineer. If you've been out here lately, you see that 2 lanes of the Clark Road extension has been constructed. That was a requirement of the Oak Trail Reserve subdivision. Arden Park has to design the west 2 lanes, and then the extension all the way up and meet up with the Clark Road extension at this point. They have to, as part of the development agreement, design and engineer the plans. They do not have to construct until they break ground on this phase here, which they hope to do very soon. They just want to keep running while their site guys out there.
No, just a quick question,
Yes.
Mike, while you're on that. It's 2 lanes down on the, I guess, south side of that. Will they be doing all 4 lanes as they go further along?
Okay, that's the next part I'll
Okay.
discuss, so you're absolutely right. And so the intersection presently receives basically into a 2-lane section. The development agreement for the original rezoning also requires them to design and engineer the southbound 4-laning receiving, going to a 2-lane, not 4-laning all the way down to like Orchard Park Road, just a little phase of 4-laning.
How far back?
It's I think just short of this entrance at Orchard Park. I think it's just a little 4-lane down, and then it tapers back to 2-lane. So they are not required to construct that phase. In the development agreement, it said if this was designed and engineered, we could give impact fee credits to Oak Trail Reserve or Arden Park to construct this phase. So we are left with a design for a 4-lane section, tapers back all the way to their entrance here, then it goes back to a 2-lane and will connect. Now in the PUD, there is a 15-acre piece left out that they have to offer to the school board. They will be providing the documentation that, guess what, the school board doesn't want the property. So they will be coming back with a phase later on to develop that. However, they do have to construct all of Clark Road all the way up to the terminus at the north, and McCormick Reserve already constructed it south. That's why we have a road going to nowhere. You gotta get it while you can. So that will leave us, staff and the city and the commission, with a decision to make, to get Clark Road constructed, maybe in phase 4, the actual construction happening with potential for impact fee credits. We're in negotiations with Arden Park, and then we have to deal with, do they just construct 2 lanes, or do we have them construct the 4 now, and then we have to figure out this aspect. We do know there are some traffic issues out there. We have just recently completed a signal timing study from Highway 50 all the way up to Ocoee Road. And so we'll be presenting that to the commission on what they found and kind of some Band-Aid remedies to alter the timing and make it cohesive so your travel time will be quicker.
Did it come back as horrible?
No, but the section from Ocoee to 80 Mims is slower from 50 up to Silver Star. It's slower. So there's a number of things we can do. Like if this 4-lane section was there, we could provide dual lefts on this turning movement and then shorten the signal timing so you have more straight and left. We anticipate, obviously, when this road connects, a lot of these trips will come down Clark Road and not use Ingram Road. So that'll take a lot of the lefts in the afternoon that want to be made here. They'll come up to go to this entrance and come and take Clark Road to get to their residences. Actually, you have the city of Apopka. That subdivision right there is in the city of Apopka. Their property, their city limits come down to McCormick Road. So the roadway plans do not get reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, but they are under design as we speak, and as part of the approval at City Commission, we'll have an approved roadway plan. Also, with this segment of development, they are required to pay $250,000 towards a future signal on Ocoee Road. We have that signal now, they still have to pay. It'll help to, when we 4-lane it, those costs to add the timing and all that, and then we can also look at that money for other transportation improvements. The subdivision itself provides parkland, just as the rest. If you've driven in the subdivision, it keeps with the theme. The landscape architect that has been on board from day 1 and done the south and the north is still on board, and that theme will continue throughout this. This is sort of our last kind of big premier subdivision. The Mattamy Preserve at Crown Point near the high school is selling like hotcakes. They're on their second phase. This one still has future development within it. So with that, I'll entertain any questions. Utilities are Orange County, but this is just an infill to the subdivision. Actually, in the PD, the road initially came around and cut across this wetland and had all these mitigation requirements. They've moved the road out of the I don't know why we had them cut through a wetland. They moved the road around to not encroach, to have any wetland impacts. So.
That's good. Any questions from the dais?
So with that, I really didn't see an issue. No one in the audience. I think we're safe going forward. So.
Mr. Rumor, this adds about, phase 4A, that's about 90 homes?
Yes. And in the design of Ocoee Road and in the future design of Clark Road, we have the right-of-way for 4-laning. So in order to 4-lane from Ocoee south to 80 Mims, it's not a matter of we got to obtain right-of-way from property owners. The right-of-way is there. It's cost. And in the past, some city projects that they've done, we've actually hauled in excess fill and started building up. You'll actually see on Clark Road, the curb you see on the west side is actually the curb for the median. And you see the grass is planted. That's a median for the future 4-laning. But to say that, all of these land uses and approved subdivisions, all the subdivisions on, and another little townhome on Clark Road are background trips already programmed in because they vested their project by giving the land for Clark Road. Arden Park's trips are vested in the sense, once they have a development agreement, and once they initiate the design of the road and fulfill their duties, those future lots that are in phase 4B and 5 and 6 are already accounted for in the background of our level of service for Clark Road. The trips are not physically there, but they've mitigated it by building and dedicating the land for Clark Road extension. So I don't know if that's where you were going, Member Wunderlich, but.
Thank you.
All
Do we
right.
know the range of square footage? I didn't see that in there.
Arden Park, big.
So it went up to a 3-car garage, but
The 1,300 square foot for the, of living area for the 45, 1,800 for the 55, and 2,000 square foot for the 65, which was previously approved in the PD.
thank you.
Is the city, I've had a few phone calls or comments from your residents, and the issues aren't so much the community, but it's, again, Clark Road. It's going back past 80 MIMS now. It's affecting, from Silver Star to 80 MIMS. I mean, everybody goes 408 to Clark to get to Ocoee, Clarkona Road, everybody. I mean, I can't even get out of my street, to get here, on Tuesdays, because the traffic is just so bad, left and right. Is there any future goals to widen?
Obviously, we will be, as part of the capital improvement program, as part of a project we're doing to show residents kind of what the lay of the land, what's going to be coming with Clark Road with the signal timing, the future extensions. We can kind of guesstimate when Clark Road will be extended. But, and then we will look at today's cost in order to widen Clark from AD MIMS up to Clarkona Ocoee Road. And that'll be, it'll be a pretty penny. You're not having to, because you're gonna have to pay for the design and engineering and construction, luckily not the right-of-way. And with, for instance, McGuire Road from Old Time Pottery up to Geneva Story, we have the design, we have the engineered plans for widening McGuire Road to 4 lanes, and the project's on the shelf because we spent all of the money, most of the money for construction on right-of-way acquisition, and we still have another little 10-foot sliver that the eminent domain has a high cost. So luckily, we don't have that aspect, but we do have costs too. We do have some plans. Obviously, it's been planned to be 4-lane. We've got the right-of-way and stuff like that. So that's a decision the city's gonna have to make on the roads, which roads are a priority to be widened or extended or such.
It's
So
just
for
becoming like
something
a
like-
domino effect,
by-
from that area all the way down.
Yeah, also potentially by extending Worst Road to Ocoee Apopka, you'll take some trips off of Clark Road. Our major north-south spines are Ocoee Apopka Road, which is a county-controlled road, and Clark Road. Then you have outside, you have East Crown Point Road, and you have Apopka Vineland, which are not in our jurisdiction. So Clark Road's very important for that north-south parallel facility to get through the city. By extending Clark Road, that will help some of the developments. The only new development that is not property left on the north side of the city that's does not have an approved subdivision, that when this development comes in, they'll have to do a traffic study and if it's failing, potentially mitigate, is this Woodbury property right here. It was not a part of the original Prairie Lake. So,
Okay. Additional questions? Now, my only thing would be that while you're doing the traffic lights and all that, you might want to put one at Hackney Prairie. And get that one time too, because right now, the same problem that Jason's talking about, you have getting.
We're further up, so.
Oh, yeah, and you're further up. I mean, getting out. At this point, I go to Apopka Vineland and down to Silver Star so I can get here, because I can't make a left turn out of either Hackney Prairie or I think it's Majestic Elm that's in Prairie Lake. I mean, either one of them, you're just sitting there. So,
Well, and we know, we hope things get worse in the sense that we don't want people out migrating to go to their jobs. We want people in migrating and staying in. As we get more employment in the city, we're going to have them coming from all directions.
so, yeah, so that'd be the only additional comment there, is we definitely need a traffic light there. Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing, ask if there's anybody with any comments. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing, bring it back to the dais, and let's see, I think we only need one motion for this, and that's a motion to approve the preliminary final large-scale site plan project LS-2018-014.
I motion that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the preliminary final subdivision plan for Arden Park, North Phase 4A, project number LS-2018-014.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion by Member Bernstein, I have a second by Member Mellon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Carries. All right. With that, that brings us up to the miscellaneous. You do have in your miscellaneous part of the packet, you do have your project status. There's also a January calendar. Off of the January calendar, I would like to remind you that Martin Luther King Day Parade is January 21st. It starts at 10 a.m. If anybody who's interested, that's always a really good parade, short parade down Clark Road. But that's it.
It was last year, that was fun.
Yeah, if there's any questions?
Yeah, any additional questions or?
Questions?
All right.
Mr. Rumor, is Four Locos Taco actually going to come out of the ground?
Yes, we have we have to connect sewer. The property doesn't have sewer. We have to connect sewer from Blueford there. So we have the design, the engineered design, and we have our first cost estimate that we're going to look at getting another cost estimate.
Very good.
But yes. But the building permit's in, it's just about ready to be approved. So they've paid for the architecture of the building plan. So that's, when they've gone that step, it's a sure thing.
Good. I'm delighted for them.
All right. With that, down to adjournment. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, real quick.
Oh.
My new planner sat here all night and I wasn't even gonna introduce him. Forgive me, I'm so bad. I want to introduce you to Planner One. His name is Greg Hines.
Thanks, Greg.
He's been with us for several weeks. He's a master's student at UCF, getting his master's in urban regional planning and public administration.
Very good.
And he worked for the Department of Revenue with the state, and we're expecting great things from Greg, and you'll be seeing him shortly.
Welcome.
Welcome aboard.
Were you the delivery man for all these things? No, okay.
All right.
Used to be me.
Okay. So we'll go back. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
No.
No.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion to adjourn.
All right. We have a motion from Member Mellon, a second by Member Bernstein. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried? We're adjourned.
Very good.
See you all in February.
Great to have the
And
chairman back.
Happy New Year. Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Brummer, how can we?
Walk the tightrope of goodness and hold on for so long till the wind blows.